We as outdoors people have a responsibility to protect bears. One of the best ways we can do that is by using a bear canister. Hi folks, it's Switchback. In this video today, it's going to be all about everything you need to know about a bear canister. What goes in it, how to buy one, what is its purpose, and why is it required in so many places. Stay tuned for all that info. And if you like going to places where you need a bear canister, you're probably into backpacking, hiking, camping, that kind of thing. And if you like that, you're going to want to subscribe below. So what exactly is a bear canister? Well, it's a hard-sided container with a locking lid that is considered bear-proof. They're going to vary really widely in how they secure, how they're shaped, how much they weigh. And for that reason, you might need different ones in different places. But we'll get into that. Why are bear canisters required in so many places? Well, bears are getting smarter and they're getting more and more practice at taking down a good hang, and most hangs aren't good. Most people, even if they think they know how to do a wonderful hang, whether it's a PCT hang, counterbalance, etc., they're doing it wrong. And even if you do it right, a lot of bears know how to take them down, and they're teaching their cubs to go and do it. They cut the lines, they break the branches. A lot of places don't even have suitable trees for it. They're too bushy, they're too short, what have you. And then lions get caught up in those trees. I've been to places where there's several lions hanging out of a tree. And those lines also damage the branches. Let's say that you're a fan of doing an Ursack, which is considered a bear-resistant bag. And sometimes people use these to hang, and sometimes they simply tie them to the trunk, which is allowed. But bears are getting into these. And even if they don't get into it, they're going to pulverize your food and it's going to be covered in bear saliva. There are also what we call mini bears. Those are mice and skunks and raccoons. And an Ursack is good against big claws, big teeth, but not against little teeth, and rodents and such can get through. And then that hole means that a bear can also get through more easily. There are still a handful of places where it's safe to sleep with your food, which is how things used to be. But if in doubt, get a bear canister. The saying is that a fed bear is a dead bear. What that means is that when a bear gets used to stealing human food, then they become a bigger risk to humans. And for that reason, a ranger then ends up having to shoot them. Sometimes they get relocated, but it doesn't often go very well. What exactly needs to go into a bear canister? General rule is anything that goes on or in your body. The most obvious one is food. Any trash that comes from that food. Anything used to clean that food off your teeth, including your toothbrush, your dental floss, your toothpaste, any medications or ointments, including like antibiotic ointment, Body Glide or any kind of anti-chafing, chapstick, insect repellent. Even if they're unscented, a bear has a very strong sense of smell. So maybe we can't smell something, but they can. So any kind of sunscreen, I've got hand lotion, I've got camp soap, all of it needs to go in here. And as my bear canister gets emptier, it does make more room in my backpack to put my cook pot in here, but I also don't nest my fuel canister in here. Do not ever put a fuel canister in your bear canister, because if it does break, if something were to happen to it, it will contaminate everything in there. If you have a bottle of bug spray rather than these little packets, double bag it so that it also doesn't contaminate your food. What should you do with your bear canister? First, never ever hang it or tie anything to it. If you hang it and it falls, it can crack, and then you defeated the whole purpose there. And anytime that you have something tied to it, it gives a bear leverage to drag it off or to try to break it over a rock or something like that. Place it away from camp where it can't be rolled off of a cliff or into a water source. Avoid putting it on a high place where a bear can push it off and it can crack. Don't waste your time trying to bury it or hide it from a bear. A bear is going to find it no matter what. You can always try to hide it from other hikers, however. Look to see what the regulations and recommendations are where you're headed. In some places, like when I was just in Yosemite, they wanted us to put it 20 to 30 feet away from our camp with our cook pots on top so that we could scare off a bear if something were to happen in the middle of the night. In other places, it's recommended that you put your bear canister 100 feet away, even 300 feet away in grizzly country. And another recommendation is to let a bear try to get into it, because then they get frustrated and then they learn that a bear canister isn't worth the effort. Anytime that you're not actively accessing it, then you need to have it properly closed if you're in camp. And the reason for that is that a bear can always come into your camp while you're hanging out, and you get scared and run off, and then this is unsecured and a bear starts playing with it and tipping it over, and sure enough, they have instant access. This particular one has 2 screws that lock. So I am able to use just a fingernail, but you can use your pocket knife or what have you, and then it just comes off like so. And you can see how the mechanisms work. And when it's on, it's totally flush. So there's no way that a bear can grab anything to rip that off. A bear's sense of smell is 7 times that of a bloodhound. So a bear canister is not going to be smell-proof or waterproof, and it won't float, especially when it's weighed down with your food. Because it's not waterproof, you may want to store it upside down when you put it away for the night, and that can keep condensation from getting in, and it can also help keep a bear from chewing off the lid. Some people swear by using odor-proof sacks on the inside, and maybe they work, maybe they don't. I have never tried. In order for them to stay unscented, you have to be scrupulous about keeping anything scented off the outside too. And it's really hard to put something in it without touching it from the outside with whatever's going inside. A bear canister can make for a nice stool or chair while in camp, even a side table. But just make sure that you have the lid screwed on all the way if you're using a bear vault. In some places, bears have been known to run off with a bear canister, so make sure that you're familiar with what is the situation wherever you're going. If nothing else, if a bear does decide to play with your bear canister, trying to get into it, it may not be where you left it. So it's wise to make it visible. Most people use reflective tape and stickers, and it's not a bad idea to put your name and phone number on it in case you can't find it, but someone else does. Because a bear canister is rather expensive, and we'll go into that later in the video. And you can see I have stickers, I've got reflective tape on all sides, but I don't yet have my name and phone number. That's probably next. When you're packing your bear canister into your pack, it should go toward the middle of your back and against your back, as close to your body as possible. It's probably going to be the heaviest thing in your pack. When mine's in my pack, I leave the lid partly open just because it's so much easier to get in and out of it, but if my pack is not on me or my canister is not right with me right there, I secure that lid all the way. It's okay to keep your first day's food outside of your bear canister, but just keep it on you and make sure that there's room for anything that doesn't get eaten. For example, I might take a Ziploc bag full of corn nuts and I'll have that with me outside of my bear canister, but I'm not going to finish the whole bag on the first day. You also want to make sure that there's enough room for any trash. There are several ways you can pack your bear canister. Figure out what's right for you. Some people do it in order of when they expect to eat things. So they'll put in their last day's food first and then leave the first things that they're going to eat toward the top. I'm more of the mind that if I have 3 dinners with me, I'm going to choose whatever one sounds good that night. So I end up unpacking my whole thing half the time anyway. But I find it works really well to lay it on its side and then put in everything vertically. And then you can easily fill in the holes with, meat sticks and anything else that's long and straight and skinny, or any little packets and such. I also start putting other items into it over the course of my trip as I start having more space in there, just to make more space in my pack. You may hear about mini bears, and that's going to be mice, rodents, squirrels, or raccoons, etc., marmots. And so it's really nice that a bear canister is also rodent-proof, mini bear-proof. Some places will provide a bear box or a pole for hanging your food. Don't hang a bear canister. And you can use an Ursack or even a dry bag for hanging. Be aware that neither of these methods are rodent-proof. When it comes to buying one, again, cost is going to really vary so widely. And what you're going to need is also going to vary really widely. Sometimes you can find them used, but they do tend to hold their value pretty well. Some places will also rent one to you. So for example, in Yosemite, because they're required, they do rent them out there. This is really a nice option if you're not someone who's going to use one very much, or if you're not sure if you will. You can also see if a nice friend will lend you one. As far as figuring out what size you're going to need, again, this is going to vary so widely. It's going to depend on how long your trips are, whether you plan on cooking from scratch, or you're going to rehydrate things or cold soak, or you use a lot of nuts and other things that are really calorie dense versus using things like bagels that take up a lot of room. Do you pack 2,000 calories a day or 7,000 calories a day? You'll see lots of calculations online for how to figure this out. I haven't found one that's accurate for me, so this is going to be one of those your mileage may vary kind of situations. You can repackage food to take up less space. One thing that I like to do is actually save my Ziplocs and I wash them and reuse them because I feel like it lowers my impact. I hate to waste all that plastic. Another trick that people do, and I haven't done this myself, is using a safety pin to prick a hole into a package like a Mountain House meal, push all the air out, and then put a piece of tape over it. If you decide to do that, do it right before your trip. You can hand wash them. I would not run them through the dishwasher because that could potentially mess with the integrity of it. The plastic is more likely to crack. I usually just wipe mine out with a damp cloth if I see like dirt and stuff in there. There are a couple different certifying bodies, and so when you're figuring out what you want to buy, you're going to want to think about where you're going and what's required there. One of them is SIBBG, or Sierra Interagency Black Bear Group. This has actually been disbanded, but there are still a lot of bear canisters that are certified for this. The other is IGBC, or International Grizzly Bear Committee. And you'll see even a Yeti ice chest is actually IGBC certified, assuming that you put a lock on it. These are not practical for backpacking. I crack myself up. How do you keep bears out of camp in the first place? Well, again, a bear is going to smell your bear canister. That's just how it goes. But this is why we'll talk about storage of them too. You're going to want to eat away from where you're going to sleep if you're in bear country. It's also really important to be crumb conscious. Don't leave crumbs, don't drop crumbs, don't let the food get on the ground, and certainly don't leave any out. Adhere to leave no trace principles. Again, pick up any micro trash that you leave or that you find, and when you do your dishes, strain the water and pack out any particulate that you get. A bandana is great for this. And again, wash your dishes away from camp. If a bear does come in camp while you're preparing food, immediately secure any exposed food or take the food with you as you back away, even if it's in a cook pot. Get big and loud and throw things at it if you have to, pine cones, rocks, etc. If the bear seems like it's only interested in the food but it's still pursuing you, as a last resort, drop the food and get away. Don't run, but back away. Again, a fed bear is a dead bear, and this is why it's so important that we don't let bears access our food. Yes, a bear canister is heavy, it's bulky, it sucks in that regard, but it's so much easier than hanging your food, and it's so much safer for our bears. If you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up down below. Let me know what you liked in the comments, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. I legit just did half an hour of recording, except it wasn't recording. Now I'm going uphill.